Greetings, DoomTubers, welcome back. Here's a video that I've been wanting to do for a while now, but I was kind of unable to because one of the pieces was missing. And that is my favorite books. Let's see here, I didn't even count how many I've got here. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and an honorable mention. I've got about 10 books, so I guess they're my top 10. But reason one of them is an honorable mention is because I haven't actually finished it. I don't know why, I just never got around to finishing it. I read it mostly in high school, but then I put it down, I picked it back up, and I just never finished it. But it is a good book, from what I can tell, and it's a classic, so I'm sure many others can vouch for it as being a really great book. One of the pieces was missing. I had a friend who was borrowing one of my books, and that's what took so long. He had it for like 2 years, and this book has been to like Slovakia and back because the guy that borrowed it was one of my coworkers, and he went on a trip and then came back, and yeah, long story. But finally, just a couple weeks ago, I got it back. So, kind of prompted me to do this video. And I'm going to probably start doing a few other collections. I've already recorded one. I haven't uploaded it yet. I'll go ahead and upload it sometime, but probably after my next pickups video, because one of the things in that is in the pickups video. But whatever. So here is my top 10 books, or top 9 with one honorable mention. That honorable mention goes to The Catcher in the Rye. I've gotten about 2/3 of the way through this one before, and put it down, and now it looks like I'm about 1/4 of the way through again. But I'll probably end up starting over once again. It's a really great story. And, yeah, I mean, I can't really say much about it because I never finished it, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers. But basically, it's about a troubled kid. So, there you go. Okay, now to the books I've actually finished. One of them here is actually a really, really great story. And it's been a while since I read it. I read it the first time in the 7th grade. And I didn't understand it at all. I did not get it. It takes place, I'll just tell you what book it is. It's called The Giver. And it's got a, like a lower reading level, so, any, I don't know, any, avid reader will be able to read this thing, in no time. Even me, it didn't take me very long. It's made for like young adults to read, but it is a really great story, and I think it's actually a little bit too advanced story-wise, not necessarily reading level-wise, but story-wise, a little bit too advanced for middle school students. But it takes place in an alternate or parallel, world, and these people grow up, and whatever year they are. When they get to, I believe it's 13. I think it says it in here somewhere. I don't know. When they get to be 13 years old, they're basically given their job, and then from then on they just go to school, and then they basically on the job training for whatever job they're going to end up with. Kind of like a communist kind of a thing, and. But they don't really have thoughts the same way, and I don't know. It's very confusing, very deep story about oppression, oppressing artistic anything, and oppressing thoughts. Jonas's world is perfect. Everything is under control. There is no war or fear or pain. No choices. Every person is assigned a role in the community. When Jonas turns 12, it's not 13, 12, he's singled out to receive special training from the Giver. The Giver alone holds the memories of true pain and pleasure of life. Now it's time for Jonas to receive the truth. There is no turning back. So if that's any indication, the people don't feel pain. They don't feel emotion, basically. They're very oppressed. So it is a very good story, and I would recommend it to anyone, really. By Lewis Lowry, Giver. Okay, I'm kind of a Steinbeck fanboy, so there's actually 3 Steinbeck books in here. The first one I'll talk about, I really enjoyed this, but I read it when I was in high school, and I'm not sure I took it all in completely, but I do remember loving it, and so I should probably read it again. It hasn't been too long. It's probably been 6, 7 years since I read this, but it's The Grapes of Wrath. Um, it's a really great story, about a poor family traveling out west, during the Depression to try and find riches, trying to find anything, and trying to survive along the way. And yeah, great book. Next, John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. Very, very short read. This used to be my favorite book of all time. It's still up there. This list isn't necessarily in order. I'm just kind of grabbing books. I really enjoy this story, and I have such deep emotions when I read this. I just felt so bad for Lenny, because he means the best, and you feel bad for George too, because you know what he has to do, and without ruining anything. And it's just, I don't know, it's just such a very, very good book, very sad book. Next up here is actually, I'll show this one. This is probably actually my second favorite in the series, but I've got somebody borrowing the rest of them in the series, so I'll go ahead and show this one, but I'll talk about the other ones a little bit, and that is Ender's Shadow by Orson Scott Card. This one is really great. This is a companion book to Ender's Game. Now, Ender's Game is a futuristic story about a kid who gets, I don't know, drafted by this battle school to go up into space in this space station to learn to kill these aliens, because the aliens invaded once before, and it's been predicted that they're going to invade again. So they start training kids at a very young age to battle these aliens. And Ender is actually his nickname. His real name is Andrew, but his sister calls him Ender, and he has a very deep connection, very deep love for his sister, and he would do anything to protect her. But conversely, he hates his brother. His brother is mean and cruel, and he hates him. So he hates his older brother, but he loves his older sister, and he is a good combination of both. His character is a good combination of both, and that's why they picked him to come to this school. And yeah, basically he's singled out at a very young age. He's excelling very fast, and he's singled out, and basically made to have everyone pitted against him, and he comes out through everything, and just, kicks ass. So it's a really great book. But this book, Ender's Shadow, is about another character in the same book, in Ender's Game. He appears in the book. He's one of the main characters, but his name is Bean. And this book is basically the same story, but from Bean's perspective instead of Ender's perspective. The first half of the book, it just shows Bean's upbringing, how he came into the world and what he had to go through on Earth, and then it shows him being taken to the battle school and experiencing things the same time as Ender does, because they're in the same group, experiencing things the same time that Ender does, but from his perspective instead of Ender's perspective. And you learn later on that Bean was actually brought on board to be if Ender failed. So that's where this is. It's a very good book. Next, I love every book that I've ever read by this guy. I've only finished two, but I've only finished two, and I'm partway through another one, and he has two more. It's one of my very favorite authors, up and coming. He's not really up and coming, but up and coming for me. His name is Mitch Albom, and he started out his career as a sports writer. He wrote articles about sports teams and things like that, from Detroit, I believe. And he started writing books too. And this is one of his first ones. I don't think it's necessarily his first one, but one of them. And some of his books are novels, and some of them are true stories. I think he's got 2 true stories and 3 novels now. This is one of the novels. It's called The Five People You Meet in Heaven. It's a really, really great story about a character who is an old man, and, you know, this isn't a huge spoiler, but he dies fairly early on in the book, and then it just basically takes him through like the first five people he meets in the afterlife, you know, and each person that he meets has a significance in his own life, but he may or may not know it, and the person that he meets may or may not be aware of who he is. So it's a really great story. Next up is a book that I can't recommend to you because you'll probably never ever get to read it ever. This is a book that was written by my great uncle, and it's a memoir of him, of his life, basically. It's talks about his upbringing and my grandpa, who was his brother. It talks about their upbringing. They were brothers, fairly close in age, so they spent the most time together of all of their siblings. They had lots of other siblings, but they were the oldest too. He was the oldest. My great uncle was the oldest, and my grandpa was next. So this book spends about half the time talking about their upbringing, maybe more. And then the rest of it is his experience during World War II. He was in the Navy. He was a radar guy, and basically all of his experiences in World War II, all the way up through him getting to witness some of the atomic bomb testing and things like that. So it's pretty crazy. My grandpa died when I was pretty young. I was around 12. So I never really got to ask him a lot of really serious questions, and I had lots of cousins, and I was kind of in the middle. So, I don't know, family get-togethers weren't as intimate, you know, where you could have a deep conversation with your grandpa. It was more, you know, just kind of chaotic. And he was busy. He was a farmer and stuff. But it's Charles Edward Link Jr., Me, the memoir of me. It's one of the best things I've ever read, just because it hit home with me, and it's just really well written. And because I knew him, I was able to hear his voice, you know, and because I knew several of the characters, you know, people, you know, in my family, I was able to just connect to his writing so well that it's it's not necessarily, you know, a great work of literature, but it hit home with me. So I recommend that if you have a writer in your family, you know, of an older in this generation, you know, treasure things that are by them, you know, because it's, I don't know, it just really made me learn a lot about my grandpa that I didn't know. So that's it. Two more books here, and these two are probably my favorite two books of all time. It's been a while since I read either one of these, but and I just started one of them again. It's really tough, actually, for me to pick which one is my favorite because I enjoyed both of them so much. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Steinbeck as my favorite. I'll let you know which one it is in a second. But this one is All Quiet on the Western Front. This is a stunning, stunning book, a stunning account. Not really an account because it is a work of fiction, of a German soldier who willingly enlisted but really became desensitized to war, to death, you know, and you just feel just sadness when you read this book, and yeah, just you see him, you know, having to deal with, you know, friends dying and having to kill someone, and, you know, him having a tough time with that. And when he goes home, you know, on rest or whatever, you know, things just aren't the same. And he thought that they would be. He looked forward to going home, and he thought that it, you know, would be the same, but it just wasn't. And he actually couldn't wait to get back. You know, and it's, I don't know. It's a very, very good read, and it's a very great book. I can't suggest this book enough. All Quiet on the Western Front. I can't pronounce his last name. Eric Maria Remarque, maybe? I don't know. I never really cared. It was a good book. Last up here is probably my favorite book of all time. This book really struck a chord with me. I read it a couple of years ago. I found it in a thrift shop, and it's a vintage, very old book. Yeah, and it's just really great book. It's a true story. It's a travelogue, and if you haven't guessed by now what it is, by Steinbeck, it is Travels with Charlie by Steinbeck. This book, I don't know, it just took me on the journey with him. And Charlie is his French poodle. He starts out the book, he decides he's going to go on a trip. He lives in Long Island. He decides he's going to go on a trip. So this was before the day of the RV. So he has this little truck made, a new truck and a cabin built onto the back of it. And he decides he's going to travel the world. And so he takes off, him and his dog, loads up and travel the United States in anonymity. He's going to try and just get by on no one knowing who he is. And of course, eventually he does meet some people, that kind of know who he is, but, he just moves on, and just, tries to. This was towards the end of Steinbeck's life, and definitely towards the end of his career. This is one of the last things he wrote. I think this was in like 1960. I think this is when this happened. I'm not sure. I can't remember. So yeah, he names the truck after Don Quixote's horse, and I can't pronounce it, but there it is right there. Hopefully you can see that. It's Rocinante. It's like Rocinante or something like that. Rocinante. I don't know. I never knew how to say it. I just knew what he meant. So yeah, he just travels. He goes up through the northwest or northeast, all the way through Maine. Stays on the northern half here, and just travels in Yellowstone, I think that is, and gets scared by the bears, so he turns around and comes up to the northwest, down into the south, and has some bad experiences with some segregation and things like that really upset him. And then he just kind of books it on home after that. He's kind of tired of the trip, and he just wants to get home. So, yeah, it's a really great story and really great trip. It's a true story if you can stand to read travelogues, and I just love the way Steinbeck writes. And he writes, it's very real, the way that he writes. And my favorite quote from a book, or from anything really, comes from this. And see if I can recite it from memory. It's, oh, no, I can't. I can't recite it from memory. I'll have to put it, on the page somewhere. It's such a great quote, I don't want to ruin it. So I'll put it on the page in the video somewhere so you can see it. Now, right about now, where I'm talking about it. Yeah, it's such a great story. I keep saying that, but it's a quick read because it is a travelogue, and it is just him talking. It's the whole book is based on that. Telling short stories about all the different experiences that he had along the way. All the food that he ate. To the places where he slept. To the little hole in the wall hotels where he stayed and froze. It's just a really great book, and I can't suggest it enough. Especially if you're a fan of Steinbeck, I would definitely suggest this book. Okay, that is it, folks. That is my favorite books. And leave a comment, if you read any of these books and you really like them. Or if you don't like them, I guess you can comment. Normally I do, video game stuff and, movie stuff. And I don't know, I do read, some. I don't read like crazy. I love books. I have a lot of books. I buy way more books than I'll ever read, probably. But I have intentions of reading them. But, I don't know, video games get in the way. of reading. Can't help it. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Doomwaves out.